Hello, welcome back. This is Physics Behind Fitness. My name is Mark Jensen. Where we left off was talking about lengthening muscle and using some various techniques to do so. So if we take a look at muscle, and we did this last time, but we'll do it again quickly. This is a healthy muscle, this is an unhealthy muscle. There's nothing really good going on inside this tissue if the muscle is contracted. It's not going to create a greater degree of power because it's partially contracted and the force is produced by contraction. So if the muscle is already contracted, then it's not going to produce the power of a muscle like this one. There's really no value in short and tight muscle. It reduces flexibility, it causes joint wear in excess of standard, it creates lack of range of motion, which is an invitation for arthritis and other problems associated with short muscle, and none of them are good. We have to use these items right here, and they clearly work, and they take many hours and they take a lot of pain. There are some people who would not take pain and therefore they will not lengthen muscle, and their pain will be later. The pain we can put up with now to lengthen the muscle will mean we will have no pain later. Everything I'm teaching you in these videos is associated to what the body wants. If we are doing the things to help it take care of it ourselves, it's cooperative and it's working with the system. Now, the problem today and with all this is our neurological muscular sequencing we discussed last time. Okay? This picture is similar to the last one. I drew it again, but it's an analogy picture so you can begin to understand what it takes to make a permanent tension change and a permanent muscular sequencing change. Okay? We could stretch for 2 weeks and do no workouts at all, and we might get this 5-inch muscle to a 7-inch muscle. As soon as we worked out or lived a life and walked around and did anything else we had to do, we would resequence our muscles in the wrong order and shorten the muscle again. It's the tightest muscle, it's the most known to the nervous system, and as soon as the joint is loaded, that it surrounds, that muscle contracts first and gets over inertia. Inertia is a major issue when it comes to muscle because getting something moving is harder than keeping it moving, so the correct muscle must start the movement so we don't exceed the muscle's design for contraction and we stay within its limits. That way it won't injure itself. In this analogy picture we have a hole size issue, and the real fact of the matter is that no nerve sheath has any change in size due to your tension relationship. But the analogy here will help you understand how to change muscular sequencing. If an individual takes a muscle from 5 to 7, even though 10 is a desired number, if we did that, this picture would make this hole a little smaller, because this picture is related to muscular tension and muscular length. The biggest hole has the tightest muscle. Therefore, if we increase the length of that muscle, we have slightly reduced that hole in the analogy of this picture. So, what is vital? It's vital to increase the size of this one. This is a late sequencer. In this position, it's the 5th muscle that I happen to draw. So, it sequences the 5th, and it's already begun movement. It's basically going along for the ride. Our movement has already begun, and that muscle really didn't produce a great amount of tension to create stabilization or movement. So we need to sequence this one first because we can determine by analysis and determine what muscle needs to go first in each joint. It's an engineered thing and it can be determined, and it has been determined. So in this scenario, on the analogy that we have here, this muscle must get bigger so that we can resequence the nervous system. Resequencing the nervous system is imperative. As you remember, I'll slightly quiz you. What is the definition of an unstable joint? Improper muscular sequencing. That determines unstable. Proper muscular sequencing around any joint determines stability and a stable joint. So, this is an improper muscular sequencing. We have to change it to be successful in the long run. So, we've begun and we've started our myofascial release. We got a good massage therapist and we begin to communicate with them, and they work on you for a while, and over a couple of 3 weeks, some period of time, you begin to lengthen muscle. Say you got 10 to 20% less tension. That's great. The body's probably going to feel better for a lot of people out there. And that's generally where we are now as a population. We've determined that rolling and stretching makes us feel better for a period of time, so therefore we do it. But we find ourselves, after a workout, back at the same place, or a run, or a game of tennis, because the muscle just draws back and gets short again, and then we get aches and pains associated to the tension problems. The joints are breaking down, the muscles are unhealthy, so we don't feel good again, so we roll and stretch, and then we feel a little bit good again, we go out and work out, and the same thing happens again. So the circle of treatment gets you nowhere in the long run, but it does extend the life of the system slightly longer, not very much. So let's grow this muscle here. Now, if you remember back a couple of videos, we discussed angular force tension. Angular force tension can be developed by muscles around the body and cause a movement to occur 89 degrees or less. So our nervous systems are highly adaptive, and in athletes or anybody out there, we commonly use all sorts of muscles to perform activities where some muscles are underactive. So if an important muscle is underactive, several other muscles will become overactive to produce the required tension to make the movement successful. And that's only good for a short period, but people can practice the wrong muscle all the time and get pretty good at making movements, or good in their mind at making that movement. They're not operating their body in an engineered manner, but they're operating it in some manner that looks maybe surprisingly good to somebody who's not sure what they're looking at. So let's quickly talk about this before we end this video. I'm going to draw a joint, and it's kind of hard for me to draw 3D, but let's say it bends like this. Okay, 2 bones is centered there. The muscle lies over the joint like this. When it contracts, the bone moves like this. So that's simple enough. Angular force tension means that some people could create a force of tension in this direction and a force of tension in this direction and move that joint. When properly training this muscle, a late sequencing muscle, the individual can't feel the muscle, doesn't know how to use the muscle. If you were asked them to contract it, they couldn't. That's this type of muscle. So we have to find that muscle for the nervous system so that the individual can begin to use it. We have to cancel out this kind of behavior. We do it by inhibiting that muscle to be used by asking or applying an opposite force to the joint to disable angular force contraction. We want to keep only the contraction by this muscle and ensure that it's contracting to 100%. In order to do that, we have to reduce nervous system energy. If you try hard, or if you use the nervous system at all, you will use the large muscle. If you try hard, you will absolutely use a large muscle and you will have no opportunity to use any other at all. So we need to take the nervous system and reduce the output to like 20%. A lower than normal output, that would require no weights, no additional load, because nobody is able to use their sequencing correctly with no weight anyway. So why would you add weight to make the problem worse? So we cancel out any angular force contraction and inappropriate muscle activity and force this muscle to do 100% of the contraction requirements. If it does that, the muscle will adapt and get stronger. And in the analogy picture we have here, this hole will be getting larger. Pretty soon you can go to 40% of nervous system output, still isolating the muscle, not allowing for any angular force contraction, and this gets bigger still. During the same time you're doing this, and it's important that that is the case, we are doing our myofascial release and stretching to lengthen muscle. So we finally get a 7, we get it out to 8 inches. Now this hole is a little smaller, and this one gets bigger as we get this to 60% of nervous system output, still isolating that muscle. Gradually we get this hole bigger and this hole smaller until this one is the first to contract and this is the last to contract. And we address the other muscles as well. Soon we have a new nervous system sequence. When we achieve the appropriate muscular sequence around any joint, we've accomplished one step. The first step is stabilization. So this new sequencing is the correct and engineered sequencing for that joint. It's now a stable joint. The question is, are we done? Have we finished? Are we ready to go play whatever it is we got to do? The answer is no, unfortunately. We've only been at this some period of weeks or months, and it's been decades or many, many years that we've been improperly sequencing. So we have not changed the brain program. We've just resequenced that joint, and we're better off for sure. But we have to go to step 2, which is strengthen. So we take the newly sequenced joint in the proper sequencing by engineering and science and strengthen that joint. When we strengthen that joint and that muscle complex, this one is canceled and this becomes a new nervous system program. This is vital. 45 years, I have not yet seen any individual who took the time to stabilize their joint system in the body, especially the lumbar spine and pelvis. Everybody talks about the word core. Do you understand the core? Do you understand that it's approximately 29 muscles? 23 of them are movement muscles. They're not stabilization muscles. Another 6 or so are stabilizer muscles. The 2 should operate independently. In thousands of people, I haven't seen it right yet in the highest level athlete. So we're lacking in our base root beginning of fitness and tension application to the human body. So once we've got strong and we've got the sequencing correct, we can go on to one more step, which people really enjoy. Power, running, jumping, throwing, doing everything it is we want to do within a sport or any other thing. So this process is vital for longevity and success. Next video, we're going to start talking about what's going on with the public spines and their various joint systems. But we're getting slowly through these videos to give you an understanding of what's required to be successful. If we spend a lot of time up here in power, eventually we may damage a muscle. We tried extra hard, we had to get to that football, it was 2 feet ahead of us, but we made the catch, but we possibly damaged the muscle. Today, the standard process is ice, elevate, compress, take some anti-inflammatory, lay on the couch or relax until we feel better. When we feel better, go back and do what we were doing. The nervous system adapts and senses the additional tension of the damaged muscle and creates a healthy muscle that's tighter to balance the imbalance of the tight and damaged muscle. So you're living with an injury for the rest of your life. When you go through this process I'm describing, you would never listen to the world on that procedure at all. So we'll talk more about that later.